So one of the issues that's been top of mind for a lot of people, but it doesn't get much coverage anywhere really, is housing costs. I mean, they are skyrocketing. It's absurd. People are struggling massively. Well, now we actually have some good policy news to share with you guys. Quote, Americans aren't serfs. House Dems propose end to Wall Street rent gouging. Interesting. So I'll give you the specifics here. To help address the nation's housing crisis while at the same time confronting Wall Street greed, 3 California members of Congress on Saturday touted new legislation to target rent gouging in the U.S. by private equity firms and investment giants who have gobbled up huge numbers of single-family homes and residential units in the years since the 2008 financial crisis. So let me pause here to explain that a little bit to everybody. So what happened is you had the subprime mortgage crisis, you had the Great Recession, you had foreclosures skyrocket. Then you had these big Wall Street firms swoop in, buy up all these single-family homes because they can afford to do it and regular people couldn't afford to do it, and then they would rent them back to people. Now, over time, they decided, of course, because what they do, what if we price gouged? What if we jacked up rents beyond belief? And so now people are screwed. Renting is far too expensive. Getting a mortgage and buying is far too expensive. What the fuck do you do? So, of course, you've seen a situation where homelessness has skyrocketed. Evictions have skyrocketed. Now, there's other factors as well. There's mental illness, there's drug addiction, but the cost of housing is one of the key culprits, of course. When you talk about, hey, I can't afford housing, what's the problem here? It could be the cost of housing. That could be like, it's kind of a tautology to say that this is a problem. Wall Street should not be any family's landlord. Co-authored by Democratic Representatives Ro Khanna, Katie Porter, and Mark Takano. By the way, Khanna and Porter, despite whatever disagreements you or I may have with them, they are some of the better politicians in Washington, D.C. That's undeniable. The Stop Wall Street Landlords Act aims to deter future institutional investments in the single-family residential market by ending taxpayer subsidies to profit seekers as a way to help struggling families battling housing costs amid rising inflation. If enacted into law, the proposal would impose a tax on existing and future acquisitions of single-family residentials by large institutional investors. A statement from the lawmakers explains, the legislation would also prohibit federal lending institutions Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae from purchasing and securitizing mortgages held by Wall Street firms who leverage their size and ability to purchase large numbers of single-family homes with debt in order to turn around and rent them out for exorbitant profit, a tactic that by itself pushes rental prices even higher. So yeah, that's a phenomenal piece of legislation. I would definitely be open to going even further. I'd be fine with banning them from doing what they do. Banning them from buying up single-family houses in bulk and then reselling them at a profit. I mean, they're effectively disincentivizing it here, making it more expensive for them to do it, making it not as appealing a market for them, but fucking ban them, man. Ban them. Why should BlackRock own, like, entire villages and, price people out of the market? It's psychotic. Quote, these Wall Street investors made money by crashing the economy, got bailed out, and now they're back to feed at the trough again, scooping up these loans at rock-bottom prices so that they profit off of them a second time, and it is up to us to stop that, Warren said to a cheering crowd during a Washington, D.C. rally in 2015. In remarks posted online Saturday, Khanna said, there may have been a time following the 2008 financial crisis where it made sense for private entities to step in to buy residential units as a way to stabilize the housing market, but that in the decades since, it has become clear that Wall Street investors have exploited government policies and a lack of oversight to fleece millions of renters who find themselves at the mercy of a housing crisis they did nothing to create and have no way to combat. Khanna said that with 25% of single-family homes in the U.S. being bought up by profit-seeking investors, these firms are hurting the American dream of home ownership and the economy overall. Yeah, like that's psycho shit, man. A quarter of the houses being bought by these Wall Street ghouls so they could turn around and price gouge people. There needs to be more regulation of the housing market. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. I mean, the American dream is long, long gone. But now, like, you can't even get the fucking American catnap because they're making that out of reach. We need to stop the financialization of housing, Khanna said. Americans aren't serfs. We're not supposed to pay money to Wall Street to go live in a home. What we need is more American families to own their homes. When I was on the front lines of the foreclosure crisis, I saw firsthand how corporate special interests take advantage of families to line their pockets, said Congresswoman Porter in a statement. The Stop Wall Street Landlords Act promotes affordable home ownership so that our kids can live in the same communities they grew up in. I am proud to work with Representative Khanna and Takano to hold Wall Street accountable. Takano said Wall Street should not be any family's landlord. All right, so look, this is just good, right? This is just a good piece of legislation, and I'm happy that they're doing it. But it really does show you a stark difference between what's going on the right now and what's going on the left right now. I mean, it's night and day. For all of my issues with the Biden administration, and there's many, what's the most recent thing they did? They just came out last week and said, we're going to crack down on all these junk fees from big banks. You know, like the overdraft fees, for example. They're like, we're gonna crack down on those because those aren't fair. Those aren't right. This is ridiculous. So they're doing things like cracking down on junk fees from banks to protect consumers, trying to crack down on Wall Street, owning more and more of the single-family homes in the country to stop the price gouging of people. And the right's doing what? Freaking out for the 17th time about, like, some one transgender kid in Missouri who wants to play on a basketball team or some shit. like what exactly is going on? What are we looking at here? And it is kind of frustrating too, right? Because the Democrats are not good at campaigning. They're not good at PR. They're not good at strategy. They're not good at message discipline. So you're not going to hear about this story anywhere else. Credit to Raw Story for covering it. And we're going to be an outlet that talks about it, but that's it. Nobody else is going to talk about this. So even a clear example of like, here are some politicians in a very clear way fighting to bring down costs in the housing market. It's not going to be a blip on the radar. It's not going to be a blip. And that's fucking terrifying, man. That's terrifying. Because, look, at least now we're having the conversation on the left about how do we fix inflation? What do we do? What do we do? Well, windfall profits tax would be the obvious answer. Extend the child tax credit. Do windfall profits tax and extend the child tax credit. This would be a great way to stop the corporate price gouging, which makes up anywhere from 54% to 60% of inflation. The other issue is the supply chain, of course. What's the rights approach? Cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid. And, cut taxes for the rich again. What are we talking about here? This is night and day difference, but we're still heading into an election, which the Republicans are the favorite. That's a terrifying thing, man. That's a terrifying thought. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.